guys, we had a bit of a technical glitch there with the signal or something, so I'm going to actually start again and just give you a quick recap. So apologies to those that have already watched some of this, but we're down at the lake today for what is number 4 of our weekly tours. I'm Adam, the head gardener, and we're being filmed by Paul, our social media and marketing manager. And I just want to kind of talk you through some of the wildlife, the biodiversity, and what we've done to kind of manage that side of things. So you see the lake behind me, which is a fabulous resource to have. And just from a point of view of location, this is the map of the estate, and we're actually up here on the jetty today, and the entrance and the square and Blarney village are here, so we're a good way back across the estate today, and all of this area is normally open and accessible for the walks. But we don't need to look at the maps today, so I want to bring you in and have a little look around. This was built 2 years ago by Manfred, who is currently doing our boardwalk area in the fern garden that you may have seen last week. But it's a floating platform, and it's a way of getting the visitors out onto the lake, and just to really give them an idea what is here, because the lake is naturally surrounded by vegetation, which in a lot of areas is quite boggy, which is great for the wildlife but not necessarily good for the visitor. So here you get to keep your feet dry. So really it gives you a full 360 view, and as you look around you can see the reeds and the surrounding areas, but it's an absolute haven for wildlife, and we like to think of it as, you know, part of our nature reserve really. And if you look across the way, I won't say we got carried away, but things tend to grow legs, and it started off as the jetty, and then we added the bird hide, which is open during normal opening hours for people to actually go in, have a look and educate themselves a little bit about the bird life and other wildlife on the lake. And then we've also constructed a floating island out there which provides a safe haven for nesting bird species. And so we've also, if you notice behind me, with one of the restored boats, it's one of the family's rowing boats, which we use it for maintaining the lake more than anything, but a couple of years ago it was parked up in one of the barns and getting a little bit tatty, and we decided it'd be lovely to bring it back to its former glory. So we spent wet days in one of the sheds just tipping away from time to time, and we're lucky that we have some great, very skilled staff on board who really took on the challenge, and we ended up sourcing paints to match the original colours, so it's as authentic as we could get it. So I'm now going to bring you out back across the boardwalk. We'll go past the boathouse and out, just looking over the fields, because there's a couple of areas there I want to talk you through and talk about really wildlife management and biodiversity. So we are what's known as a wildlife estate. It's a European landowner's designation and a title that they're quite strict in the application process. You must show that you have a management plan in place to manage the estate in such a way that takes the benefits the wildlife and takes the wildlife into account, let's say. And we were the first estate in Ireland to get this title. There's several have followed suit since, which is fabulous. But it's about managing things with a slightly different hat on, and looking at set aside areas, encouraging biodiversity. And we're very lucky in that we have nearly all of the Irish native wildlife still present on the estate, which so close to the city centre here in Cork is just fabulous. And obviously for our visitors is also fantastic. But just a few of the things we have done. You see the newly turned soil in front of me. This is an annual thing we do with the wildflowers. So this is annual mixes of wildflowers specifically really for bird feeding and insects. And behind Paul in distance, if he turns around and looks down, you'll see as the field runs towards the trees with a very large area in the corner, which for the last 5 years has been left as wildflower meadow. And it's very successful, and when you walk through it in the middle of the summer, it's absolutely alive with insects. I've seen certainly the largest dragonflies I've ever seen hunting over the tops of the grasses over there. So obviously these things are here to a certain extent around the lake, but to give them the additional habitat and the space is just fabulous. Now I want to also show you a bee log that we've put in. You can see it up in the oak tree as Paul pans around in the middle. There's a very large log pinned to the canopy about 2/3 of the way up. Now this is a large hollowed out log, and it's not of any use to us, but it's of great use to the bees. And by providing these habitats, you give an opportunity for a swarm to move in. And last summer, only really a few months after we put this thing into place, a swarm did in fact move in, and as far as we know they're still very healthy and active. So it's fabulous to see, and we've started adding these log houses elsewhere on the estate as well. And I think it's great to have bees of our own and produce the honey, but it's also great to give these wild swarms an opportunity too. And now I'd like to walk down. We're going to go along a bit further onto the lake where one of the clearings is, and we've a new sign there, and I'll talk about some of the history of the lake as well, because as with everything in Blarney, there's always a couple of stories. People were commenting as we were walking about the bird sound, so I'm not going to talk too much between the different areas because I think it is lovely, and I would swear that the birds are singing louder than previous years. As we're coming down, if Paul pans around with the camera, you'll see the mansion house come into view. And the way the mansion house was built and located was ideally to give this view of the lake and the approach of the eye going down. It gives a long view with the lake at the bottom. And typical landscape type design of the era, really. See the mansion there coming into shot, and this is another thing we will visit and talk about over the next few weeks. have to take my word for it, but there's a heron hunting just in the reeds across the way here, and it's fabulous to see all of the wildlife. But just to name some of the wildlife that's here within the estate that has actually been recorded in the last year or two, and there's otters, kingfishers on the river. We have river lampreys, there's trout and salmon in the rivers. It's all very clean still and pristine environments. We have badgers, foxes, red squirrels in the air. We've all different bird varieties. There's a family of buzzards moved in over the last couple of years, and we're now hearing woodpeckers in the woods, which is just another string to our bow, let's say. But there's also some interesting stories around, and this is our newest sign. This went in this morning, so we can call this the unveiling. But obviously, with people coming to visit the estate, they like to learn about the history of the place and the stories that go with it, as well as the wilder areas. So the Blarney Lake has several good stories, and here we're telling two of them. So one of them would be about really the origins of the knowledge of the Blarney Stone, which would be when Cormac McCarthy rescued a drowning lady here on the lake, who turned out to be the witch, and he returned her to her lair, which we visited 2 weeks ago and in the rock close. And as a thank you for saving him, she told him the whereabouts of this magical stone and its qualities, and thus the Blarney Stone was born. The second story is of treasure, really. So the family, when they lived in the castle, there was a fabled gold plate amongst other treasure, and when the castle was besieged, they were actually up on Card Hill, which is above us, and this was in the time of Oliver Cromwell, and his general parked a cannon and started shooting the castle, and they managed to take the castle, but all of the garrison had fled, and leaving behind just a couple of trusty old retainers who were of no value to anyone, apparently. But it's said that they took the treasure with them, and en route past the lake, the treasure was hidden or dumped in the lake, and was subsequently never recovered. So, as I say, this is Blarney, so there's always a story. Finish bringing you into one of our Bluebell Woods. It's maybe a week earlier than we need to be, but we're here anyway, and I want to kind of show you just how wild it gets if man just leaves things alone. We've only recently put in a little path through the middle of it, just so that visitors can appreciate it. But other than that, we do nothing in this area, and we just leave nature to its own devices. And I really want to bring you in and show you it. I'm also going to show you another little area that we've, I suppose, rewilded is a good term. It was an old water jump that was part of our old cross-country events course. And again, if you just leave nature alone for a while, it's amazing what it can do. One of the weeks coming up, I'll be showing you our Willow Tunnels that we've made, and this is what we use. It's simply a case of a bit of fun, really. We've actually started cutting and sticking these into the ground in early spring, and they'll root. and then as they grow on you can make all sorts of fanciful shapes and interesting ideas out of them. So we've a willow tunnel, we've a wigloo, and we've actually put in a little section over here which we're planning on creating into some kind of semicircular feature. So have a look. So this is all of our water jump area, which we've rewilded and let go, and we have sown selective native species here, and then we've just let nature take its course. And it's just a little edge of wilderness that connects to the lake, but the water jump itself provides shallow water habitat, which is a little bit different to the lake habitat, and we get a different set of insects and animals visiting it. But I just wanted to refer to the willows. These are literally just cut ones stuck in the ground that have rooted. Very simple, but great fun. If you want to have a go at home, it's just find some willow, stick it in, and away you go. So the water jump is very much more of a shallow water pond habitat, and you can see it's gone totally wild, and it's absolutely full of insects. And I'd love to bring a group down here and start pond dipping, because I remember as a child coming down and doing pond dipping, and it being a really interesting thing to be doing to get people interested in nature. And I think school groups, things like this, would benefit from these type of areas if it was done right. But it's something that I think if you do it once, it sticks in your head, and it's about introducing the young people to what's out there. And I think certainly now in this situation we're in at the moment, it's making people a lot more appreciative of Mother Nature and the natural world. But I'll show you one anyway. These are the Bluebell Woods. This is one of those areas that when you walk into, you naturally lower your voice, and I think that speaks volumes. And I'm actually going to stop talking now and let Paul kind of walk through, and you can listen to just the background, because it doesn't need anybody to talk. So I'm going to literally step out the way. hope you enjoyed that little kind of sojourn through nature, let's say. But it's really good to emphasize what is here on the estate, and we've, you know, several hundred acres of wilderness that is waiting to be explored. It's not just about, you know, the castle, even the gardens. There's huge areas and tracks and trails around the estate where a family can really have, you know, a good day out. So we hope when we do reopen, some of you will get out to actually enjoy these areas fully. So thank you very much, and we'll probably see you next week.